And this is notwithstanding that you are busy, you have things you are doing, you're even afraid that you do not know sufficiently to author that book. And perhaps as well, you think that you do not have that capacity, that knowledge that can take you through writing something and then making all of this difference. Come to think of it, look at this big voluminous book, right? So, and this is me just sharing my own experience so that you can see that there is really no fear that is common to you. This also happened to the very best. And it is the journey I want to hold you by the hands on today to guide you and let you see that this thing is real. You do not have to stress it. And in the coming 3 months, you are going to be an author of your own book. So look at this specimen. See this big example. Now, many years ago, I started digesting books, and whether it's fiction or not non-fiction. By the way, if you are joining this session because you want to write fictional or non-fictional, I want you to know that the experience that I will bring on board to bear in this conversation would help you irrespective of the kind of book you seek to author. So this was many years ago. This was me, how I used to feel when I see this voluminous book. The first thing that comes to my mind is, when will I know sufficiently to be able to write this whole epistle, this whole book that is called a textbook? And you might be in those shoes today, wondering how you can get to write this kind of thing, or at least when will you know sufficiently to be able to author? And that's what this conversation is all about. For those who know me, my name is Eitayo Ogunyemi, and I'm the author of the bestseller, Structure Secrets for Startups and Think Like a Lawyer. Now, I'm going to be sharing how these things came to be, and I would also be very down to earth in guiding you on the fears which would show that these things are not just common to you, they are common to men and common to women as well. Okay, so let's start the journey together. So this is my story, and I hope you're able to relate with it. See, for so long a period, there was a time that I started training people out of my free period, started holding people by the hands, teaching them basic principles of the law. So I started sharing all these ideas, and all of these things were within my mind. But I told myself, well, so I'm just sharing these things, but for me to be able to write a book, I must know more than the things I'm sharing. That was honestly what I told myself. So I struggled to write my first book because of all of these things, but I kept at it, teaching people every time. And the more I taught, the more I became a great guy, a great expert who, I became very well sought after. So my weekends were getting busier, even weekdays were also getting busier. And my students were always having fun. So usually a student will refer to another person and say, look, this guy is a great expert at this thing. Invite him on board. Some of you that know me today, I do a lot of training for entrepreneurs, holding them by the hands. And this is just what it is. So I don't know that field that you represent. What it means to be an expert. It's not that you already mastered all of this book. I'm sorry I keep using this book because this is just the expression of fear that many of us are facing. So you are not an expert because you've mastered all of this. You're an expert because even if it's a single line, you have a word that transforms or is capable of changing somebody out there. You are a storyteller not because you've known the end of the story from beginning and the end, but because you have a central theme that you want to present to people out there. So you might be able to relate with some of these things I'm sharing from the context of what you are passing through at the moment. So for me, my sessions became great, best, well sought after, and I became renowned within that space. And I was always showing up and guiding my students by the hand. And all of a sudden, something very interesting but unexpected happened. More students started meeting me after my sessions to ask if they could have a copy of my presentation. And perhaps because I was beginning to feel very insecure at that, I mean, I was feeling insecure. So I started telling myself that if my students are beginning to ask for these things, is it possible that they will play a fast one and quickly put these thoughts together before me? Because interestingly, again, I was beginning to have more students that even want to come over and over to learn the same thing, just because it was just an addiction to keep hearing and getting renewed over and over on how they can apply law to build their businesses. So this was my fear. And I knew at that moment that, look, if I'm getting sought after and sometimes events are clashing, this brand is inviting me for some training, this brand is inviting me, one is more private, one is broad. I knew that the best I would be able to do is to document this whole idea in a book. I knew immediately that the only way I can take ownership of what is rightfully mine, which is already my intellectual knowledge, is to put it in writing. I knew that this would be the right thing for me to do. So next thing was I started searching, I started researching. So I took a deep dive to find out, how do I author my book? Even though I am busy, even though I think I do not know how to write, even though I also think that I do not know sufficiently to write. And within these three contexts are the fears that many of us, many people have, which has stopped them from living the life that they would have loved to live, which is to become an author. So let me share my experiences with you, because I come in the multitude of all of these fears which you might be facing, and the years of my research that has helped me to publish 2 books currently, and even on my 3rd and 4th book at the moment. Let me share these thoughts with you, and I hope you find them very handy. So first thing is, you have to conceive an idea. As said earlier on, what you need is a central theme. You don't need to know all of this before you start the journey of just the first page. What you need is a central theme. The central theme can be a one-liner. Recently, I had a conversation with somebody, and while having that conversation, the person said just one-liner that changed everything. And I knew that if I can digest this one line, then I will be able to build something out of the message that the person was communicating. Many students don't understand that they do not need, many prospect authors now, they do not understand that they do not need to have the full understanding of all of the chapters before they set out. You just need to have an idea, a central theme. What is the central theme of that which you want to write? And then the next thing you have to do is to do a mind map. I love something so much. Growing up as a child, I would usually just climb the staircase, go up, come down, go up, come down. That was just the energy with which we lived life as children. And you might be able to relate with this thing I'm sharing today. But the point is this: the same way we climb the staircase to go up is just the same way that you can put together a staircase from the beginning. Now, this is where, please, can you get me a sheet of paper somewhere, please? So I would just want to show you something, right? Now, what I'm talking about is well captured in something there, which I'm going to show you right away, and you'll find this very, very interesting. So I hope this is clear enough. So if it's not reflecting, okay. So this is where you are. This is like a ladder, and this is where your student is. Now, this is just one step, which we'll get to, is the next step we are getting to. But right in front of you on this screen, you will see a ladder that goes up, way up. And that's what it looks like. It's as good as saying that, look, I want to train on how you can prepare a 40 row. The 40 row from the beginner is the down part of the ladder. Now, the upper part of the ladder, the end of the ladder, is when you've gotten to the space where you can boldly say, now I have prepared a 40 row. What ingredients do you need? What is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? What is step 4? So create a ladder that broadens, right? It's like this is, I am giving an imagination of all you need to achieve this. So let's say that you want to write on how to prepare for a roll. Then the ladder will be all of the ingredients and the procedures, the step by step it takes to get that achieved. Why? How you are able to write this kind of thing is that there are ladders. And what are the ladders in this book? The chapters. The chapters. The more you break it down, even when you get to the chapters, create another ladder. The more you break it down, the easier it becomes to achieve what you want to achieve. Every part of it, there should be some ladder system that helps you to achieve what you want to achieve. And before you know it, right, you've written a book. A friend once said something to me, recently met with me and said, hey, Tayo, I love to write my book, but the fear is I don't think that I know sufficiently to be able to write it. And I kind of think that I have scattered ideas here and there. And then I asked her a question. Have you ever tried to create a ladder, at least so that you can be able to do an assessment of what you know as different from what you still need to learn? You just have to start the journey, create the ladder, which is very crucial. And then I hear some people usually say, well, so I don't know everything yet. And I think that I'm going to be criticized. Look, you cannot fully, you can't write for everybody. In that one-liner you have, it makes sense to some people. And it will to majority. Because if you are able to put somebody in front of you and say, let me tell you this story, and you tell that person that story, that person represents millions of people that would be willing to hear the same story. A song says that if you do not write the song, if you don't sing the song, how will the world get to hear the song? How will they get to feel the fragrance of that song? So come on, guys, it's time for you to pick up the pen and get something to happen right away. So the next step is to research on one thing at a time. Now, that brings me to this. But before I come to this, let me share a story with you. It's the story of a professor that happened to be a well sought after professor among his pupils. And after a while, perhaps out of jealousy, the people did investigation to know his background and found that this guy was a fraud. How did he become a professor without even having any background foundation, any education foundation to start his journey? But he moved to the position of prof. And so while investigating him, they asked him a question. Prof, you've been a fraud, right? You didn't have certification, yet you were coming to teach students. How did you manage to build a followership? How did you manage to know all of these things you teach the students? And Mr. Prof says something. He said, all I needed to do was actually to be a step ahead of my students. So, and this lesson is very important for our journey as authors. You just need to be a step ahead of your children, your students every time. The challenge is that many of us want to be the whole step away from our students before we start writing. But imagine, give a picture. Let me come back to step 2. Give a mental picture of what it looks like. You are at the peak of this ladder and your students are just way at the first part of the ladder. You would agree with me that it means you are very far from them. And being very far would mean that you are unable to put yourself in their shoes and you're unable to relate with their position. Now, what does it mean to research on one point or one topic at a time? It means that you create the opportunity, create the platform for accountability where you are teaching your prospective readers one thing at a time. So you have a storybook you want to talk about. What's going to be the chapter 1? Can you present it at a time? What this does is it moves your textbook, it moves your book from just being a theoretical framework to becoming an experiential framework. And this is a fantastic idea that changes everything. Recently I was reading a book as I traveled, and I fell in love with that book. Very voluminous book. I fell in love with it. And I can tell you something. It's because the content was written in such a way that you can relate. It's not theoretical. It's not abstract. You can relate with it. And when I did my research, I found that this author had to research on one thing at a time and teach on one thing at a time. So, and this is where, I believe so much in something that there's nothing you give that doesn't come back to you. And which is why it's been said before that it's more blessed for you to give than to receive. Sometimes we think that this whole thing isn't helping us. We need to monetize it. Don't be too fast to monetize things. Create room for accountability. Just be a step ahead. And being a step ahead means that you are holding your prospective readers by the hand and you are just very close to them. So being a step ahead would also mean that, let's say I'm researching on brand culture, and what I do is to teach on one thing at a time. Now, teaching on one thing at a time opens me up to accountability. My students are able to ask questions that are probing, that makes me to go back to the drawing board and want to write something. And at the end of this conversation, I will show you how all of these things connect, how they come together to make sense big time, which is what I want you to be on the lookout for. So research on one thing at a time. Be willing to give the idea out, to teach your students one thing at a time. And as you do all of these things, it's very important that you record all of these sessions. I will share my own testimonial, how Accent Consult and Accent Radio has been a part of making the journey very smooth and easy for me to become an author, and not just an author, but a celebrated author that is invited from far and near today. And my books are everywhere on Amazon and being purchased across the globe today. So as you research on one thing at a time, you submit yourself to accountability, to scrutiny, to questioning. You are able to research further. And while you are doing all of these things, for me, Accent Consult was there converting all of my content so that I can go about my daily affairs and I don't have to start stressing myself all over. So they were just like the PA that I needed for the time, and they did a very fantastic work for me. So, while I do all of these things, what I simply do is, once I've created a mind map, I've created a ladder, and I research on one thing at a time, meaning that I'm just a step away, one at a time. The next thing is, every time I move my audience to the ladder where I am, I move to the next research, and then I repeat the same process again, guiding them by the hand and moving them from this point to this point. Once they get here, I move on again in research. I bring them up again to that point. And this is how I get to create fantastic content that are experiential in nature, that becomes bestseller. And all I do at the end of the day, having Accent Consult behind me, putting all of these contents together, all I do at the end of the day is just to simply prune the content, is to simply look at what has been done. So in essence, I could create a weekend. I just want to read through all of the things that has been done and see and ensure that what has been put together as my content are fantastic, represents my intent, my intentions, and are good to go. Once this is done, I simply send to the publisher, and voila, I already got my book done. And at the end of the day, I get to launch my book. And this is how it works. Now, in all of this journey, I want to repeat something. I want to emphasize something. Accent Radio through the studio has been very immense, or usually comes very handy, in that I just get into the studio, I record my session. So they give me the opportunity to be able to share my content with many people that are in the pool of people that need my ideas. And then I get feedbacks. While I share my contents, these things are recorded and they go on to put the content together. And this is how I get to have my book done. And let me just share my testimonial here, and I hope that you find it very interesting. Please listen to my testimonial. Now, this was when I launched my book, Structured Secrets for Startups, and I know that this is the journey of every would-be author, and I hope I have your permission to present this to you. But just listen to this, and I want you to begin to have the feel of what it means, or have the feel of the hand from the beginning. You would get to this phase as well, where you are able to say you are launching your book, and it's a fantastic experience. So this comfort, this hope, we should look at it as something that gears us up to continue to give our best to making sure that we bet that content. So please listen to this, and I trust that you'll find it very interesting. Thank you.
Hi guys, so this is where we are using for my book launch tomorrow. You see, work is ongoing here to tidy up for tomorrow. It's gonna be wow, it's gonna be great. And I'm very eager to do this together with you. I want to talk about my motivation for what I've put together in my book, Structure Secrets for Startups. And I need you to be a part of it. You can join us on Zoom. The Zoom link has been shared. And of course, you can also reach out to me to get your Zoom link. So it's happening here, and we are very happy about this. We hope that that which I have put together is going to define many things for many entrepreneurs out there. And it's going to contribute to building a better society, a greater nation for us, and a better continent for us as Africans. I'm very privileged to have written this, and I'm delighted and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, so I hope that this comes handy to you. And look, my hope, my desire for you is that you also get to this phase where after all of the labor, you are able to enter into rest and you have helpers. In my own case, I give credit to Accent Radio and Accent Consult. And guys, I hope that you would permit me to introduce how Accent Consult and Accent Radio, how they're able to help you in your journey to becoming an author. I hope I have your permission to share this with you, because of course, if they help me, I know that they would also help you. And for us writers, for us authors, one of those things that I believe, is very crucial for what we do is the I'm sorry. So for us as authors, one of those things that is very crucial in what we do is to have that comfort. And that's what we are building. We are building an authors platform where we simply are helping ourselves and we are doing great things together. So which is really what I am hoping that we're able to do together. So if you can see my screen, what we've done is, how do we create something out of this that encourages people? Look, we are sold out to, we believe that businesses, entrepreneurs are the solution to the economic problem of the country and Africa as a whole. And this is just one of the tools, one of the instruments that we've put together. And this is also a way of encouraging you. And this is a way of getting you to join. I mean, when you have, imagine in the room where I have, if we have just one bulb, we have two bulbs, and they are able to illuminate, eventually we're able to create the light and the darkness is able to, be eliminated. And this is about what we are doing. So what Accent Consult and Accent Radio are able to help with is the package that I'm presenting to you today. So all you just need to do is the willingness, and you have to say yes to it today, because the more you say no, or you want to think about it, you get laid back, right? You have every reason to say, well, so this is not going to work, and I don't want that to be you. It worked for me and it will work for you, and I want you to be within the network where we are able to create that accountability and say, guys, we are authors, we are experts, and this is the life we've chosen to live. So all you need to do is have that understanding where you know when you are walking into the studio. Now, just to show you, just to do a walk. So now this is the studio I'm talking about, right? You'll see work ongoing now. You see, this is a board. You can have your presentation. I have some colleagues right in the room, right? So, but this is the studio. You see colleagues right in the room. So this is the studio we are talking about, and it's a fun place to be. It's a fantastic place to be, and that's why I'm inviting you to come on board. Just create your own time. Many people have joined this movement, and I want you to be a part of that movement. So you come on board, have your recording sessions. Those recordings are converted so that at the end of the day, you're not just authoring a paper book, you're also authoring your audio, your video, and all of these things will be converted. You can have the ebook, and then we can refer you to publisher that get the paper copy done, and then we manage your webinars. We push you out to your prospective clients that can buy what you're selling. And then, yes, as I've been emphasizing, I want you within the network. I want you within our circle where we can call ourselves experts and celebrated authors. So you have access to that as well. And this is the very, very interesting part of this thing I'm talking about, right? You are going to also have, so it covers your book launch at 4 Points by Sheraton. That's at Victoria Island, towards Lekki. And then you have a night in hotel at the same 4 Points by Sheraton. Isn't this fantastic? Get to the comment box. Let me know what you think about this. And of course, I hope, you don't mind then saying, guys, thank you for joining me up to achieve these great things. It's displayed right there, and you can reach out to Olumide. His phone number is 07040092804. 07040092804. I look forward to welcoming you to the League of Celebrated Authors. And thank you for joining today. Please don't waste time on this. You have to say yes. Push yourself. Is how great things are given birth